everyone. Welcome to Radio Dead Air Tech Q&A. You've got questions. We've got guesses. I'm
also got a cat.
Yes, we also there's the wonders of technology. There's Lumi licking her butt. 21st century, what a time to be alive.
I mean, honestly, that kind of cat video would still get more likes than a number of things online.
I'm Nash. I've been doing Radio Dead Air for ages and ages. But in addition to that, I'm also an IT professional. With me, as always, my producer, Mike Gearman, who also works in IT. If you have tech questions for us, you can send those to requests@radiodeadair.com, and we will attempt to answer those for you. Or if you're on our YouTube, you can put them in the YouTube comments. Tonight, we normally have news stories, but we are finishing up our holiday build guide. I was thinking next year we might add a tier because I think there needs to be something between mainstream and no limits. I think there needs to be an unattainable high-end system. Yeah, because this one's kind of ridiculous, which is the point.
I mean, and to be fair, you did put together basically a system that no human being would use.
No, I didn't. I actually did not. I put together a system that is functional. That I put together a video editing beast of a workstation that can also game. It is completely. I will point out in ways I could have gone crazier, but didn't because it would be completely impractical.
I'm going to point out that yours requires rewiring a house.
Yes, but also that is a lot. In order to use a lot of video workstations, you have to have a bigger circuit breaker now. We'll talk about it. Before we get to that, though, a couple things. I hate modern smartphones. I don't know if you've been following my phone. I cracked my screen. I'm not entirely sure how, but I cracked my phone screen, which
does suck.
Oh yeah, that's something like in most people's cases. That is, if you have to get someone to fix it, it's something like a $200 to $300 repair.
And a lot of people will just go, "Well, I've had this for 2 or 3 years. I'll just get a new phone."
And if we're talking like I've got a Pixel 7a, this was like a $450, $500 phone to begin with. So a lot of people would just go, fuck it, I'll get a new phone. That's ridiculous. So iFixit, fortunately, carries Google parts and Pixel parts. And I ordered a new screen from them in a kit, it was still $125.
But you don't have to pay for labor. You just got to do it yourself.
And here's the problem with that. This thing it's mostly glue, which is now everybody's like, well, it's cheap. You can make them cheaper if you weren't using glue. If you had to use screws, it'd be more expensive. And then they pass the savings on to us, right?
No.
And then they pass
no, they don't.
So what's the fuck is the point of the glue?
It is literally them just cheaping out, going, hey, we can save $10 a unit, and if we're shipping 100,000 units, that means the CEO gets a bigger bonus.
And not just, but never mind the fact that so many phones end up essentially in landfills, unfixable. So what you have to do, and if you want to look it up, this is the Pixel 7a. You can look up the instructions on iFixit's website. Bless iFixit for not only making all the parts available, but also the kit for this comes with a full toolkit. I didn't need it, but it comes with a full toolkit for every tool you'd need to open this up, with the including the if you don't have a hot glue gun, a hot air gun. If you don't, because you need a hot air gun to open these up. You have to blast it with hot air to loosen the glue so you can get a pick into the gap and then run the pick around the edge to separate the glue. If you don't have a hot air gun, they have this thing called an eye opener, which is, eye opening, eye opener, eye, not eye. And it's essentially, it's a little bag of goo that you put in the microwave and you heat it up you heat it up for about 30 seconds, and then you lay it down on your device, and it allows, it will melt the glue slightly to the point where you can get it open. So that's a nice thing. iFixit has all the steps laid out and the software. This requires software. I'll get that in a second. So you have to melt the glue to get the screen off. You have to use like these special guitar pick things to pry it open. There's a suction cup with a handle. And once you get it open, once it's open, it's fairly trivial to replace the screen. They even put the new glue on there for you. It's under a little sticker peel away, so it's easy to reapply. So glad they exist. But yeah, because and the other reason I really needed to replace the screen was because the crack was running through the fingerprint scanner, which that's another thing I hate, is this trend of putting the fingerprint scanner under the screen. But one of the tricks about this is replacing the screen and the fingerprint scanner. You have to run special software from Google to recalibrate the fingerprint scanner. And you have to put the phone into bootloader mode. You have to hold down the power button and the volume down at the same time. And you have to plug it into another computer, and pain in the ass. But I was able to save my phone for $125, which is still not cheap by any measure, but I saved my phone.
I've had phone adventures the last week or so as well, but of a vastly different way. I've been doing some long overdue cleaning.
Uh-huh.
And I keep finding phones. It's like, I don't even remember using this. When did I have this phone? I found the singular wireless phone that I probably moved out here with 20 years ago. I'm like, I'm sure I got rid of you.
I still have.
How did you come back?
I still have phones that old. I've got my favorite phone, probably before the smartphone era. My favorite phone was this phone that had a slide out keyboard. It was
one of the two sitting right over here.
Yeah,
Hang on a second. Okay, see that?
No, that's a smartphone era one, and I had that one too. That was a Samsung i9000, I think. That was a very early. Oh well, I have one that was Samsung. I'm talking. This was pre-smartphone. This was a cell phone with buttons and shit that also had a slide out keyboard for texting. And it also had early internet. Do you remember back when they had those crappy browsers on those tiny little screens? Yeah. Still have one of those. Those were great. I miss slide out keyboards like you would not fucking believe.
Yeah. Fortunately, there's a place near here that takes basically every old dead phone you could ever want and just goes, yeah, we'll take that.
So anyway, to point it out, the fixing my phone was, it was irritating as hell, but it was doable. And the intention that you shouldn't fix your stuff these days is so frustrating because it's so much waste. Gold, rare earth.
There are certain things, obviously, we say, hey, don't try to fix. If your microwave magnetron, whatever that part's called, breaks, get a professional to do that. Don't try to fix that on your own. That's a great way to die.
But like all the things we throw away, rare earth minerals, gold, helium, all of these items that go into a cell phone, yes, helium does go into them, not just in the actual component, but in the manufacture of the components. All this stuff we make to throw in a landfill. It's ridiculous how much waste we create for these devices that are priced way too high, that break way too fast. Something's got to give here. So frustrating. Anyway, all right, we are going to get into the no limits build for our holiday build guide. This is where we put together a build list of something we'd build if we had all the fucking money. If we could build a computer with no limit on the budget, that is what we do here. And Mike, were you trolling me with this list?
Which part of the list?
With the whole that. All right. We'll get it because if I can't be sure with you if you're trolling me or not. All right.
I build a system you could actually put in your house. Okay.
You could put mine in your house too. Hell, it literally, if I had the money, I would build this fucking thing because all you need to do, I need to upgrade my circuit breaker, but that's trivial in cost. I can do that myself. Anyway, all right, let's start with the CPU. Now, Mike, you got a fairly respectable one. It's the Ryzen 9 9950X.
It's only because there's not a Ryzen 9 9950X 3D
yet. Soon. It's they haven't released it yet. It's coming soon. But even still, the 9950X is, if we're talking mainstream AM5 socket productivity and gaming, not just gaming, but mixed use, this is the best for AM5. That's true. Arguably, the 7950X is pretty close. Again, the 9000 series has been just kind of a big disappointment overall. Not that the 9800X 3D was amazing because they figured out how to finally let that thing clock up and increase the power on it. That one's been great. It's the rest of the line that's just been kind of, yeah. Hey, Jeremy, thank you for the 100 bits, Jeremy Thompson. Appreciate that. But I went with the creme de la creme, the fastest productivity CPU on the planet today, which is, of course, the Ryzen Threadripper Pro 7995WX, 96 core, 192 thread CPU. It is your CPU costs $600. The Threadripper costs $10,000 just for the CPU. Nothing else, just the one part. It is hands down Intel has nothing in its class. Nothing. Even, and if we want to talk about Apple and their workstations, it's laughable compared to this thing. This is the finest workstation CPU in existence. The only thing that could be better is if we get a Zen 5 version, which would be the 9995WX, which doesn't exist yet. Now
Nashville says, yeah, you can game with this. And
yes,
my response is, yes, but how many games are going to go, wait, what the hell is this? And think there's something going on.
True, but there are workarounds for that. And the reason you can game on this is because of the design. It is genius the way AMD has done this. This is still Zen 4 cores. It uses the same exact technology as the basic Ryzen 5 7600. It's the same core technology. It's the same architecture. It's just scaled up. It's crazy how Ryzen scales. It's just been amazing what they've been able to do, because Intel stuff does not scale like this. That's why they have nothing in this class. AMD, it's essentially Legos with AMD's cores. They can just keep clicking on and on and on and add more and more. And because they all are the same base part, the same thing that's a gaming CPU can also be this monster at the same, basic level. If you want to do video editing, compiling, 3D work, this is unparalleled. If you want to set up 192 Minecraft servers, this will do it like a monster.
Wouldn't you want to have more than one thread per Minecraft server?
All right, so 96 Minecraft servers. Yo, dog, I heard you like parallel processing, right? That is, even with the disappointment of Zen 5, Ryzen's architecture has been an astonishing accomplishment, because and even the $600 CPU Mike chose, they're the same technology at heart. That is something Intel has been unable to do. All of their CPUs have kind of been the same general idea, but they don't scale well because they were, up until now, monolithic dies, so you couldn't make them just bigger. And AMD is like, hey, just make it bigger, and it works. Motherboard-wise, you did go all out on your motherboard. I will say, this is the craziest AM5 motherboard available today, and that is the MSI Meg X870E Godlike. This fucker is $1,100 for this motherboard. It's cray. It is utterly cray.
It has 5 M.2 slots on the motherboard. It comes with an expansion card that plugs into one of the PCIe slots to give you 2 more M.2, which PC Parts Picker doesn't actually recognize the existence of that card.
We broke PC Parts Picker a lot. In fact, they don't even have the Threadripper up. I had to manually add it to PC Parts Picker. We broke it with this build. Both of us did.
Yeah.
And it has the RGBs. It has it's nonsense. Now I want to point out the extravagance of this motherboard is disconnected from the price. Like, for the $10,000 Threadripper, you were effectively getting 10 $1,000 computers in that one CPU. So you could argue there is a financial case for it. There is not a financial case for this thing, because performance-wise, while it has if you might like the look of it, the detailing, that the add-on M.2 card, which you can get a regular PCIe M.2 add-on. There is nothing functionally about this motherboard that performs better than almost any other X870 motherboard. If you get another X870E, or even in an X670E, it's not going to perform any better or do anything any better.
Well, this, I will say, I did look up the specs on this one. And so a lot of motherboards of this generation will have multiple M.2 slots. And only one of them will be PCIe 5.
Right.
And another one will be PCIe 5. But if you use this PCIe 5, your PCIe 5 video card slot drops to ×8. This one actually has multiple PCIe 5 native. So for someone who wants data really fast, that could be a component.
That is true. That is the higher end X870Es do add multiple PCIe 5.0 slots for M.2, but even those top out at around $500 or $600. This one is just sheer extravagance at $1,100. So this is just saying to everybody, I have money to waste. Yeah.
Now I'll admit, I looked at my build for last year, and last year I used the X670E Godlike. I said, well, does it have a big brother now? Oh, it has a big brother now.
Technically, it doesn't. Technically, it doesn't. Technically, it's about the same thing, because X670E and X870E are the identical chipset with the exception of adding USB 4, and the X670E Godlike already had USB 4. So this is in some ways a ripoff.
And no, because the X670E is $200 more than this.
Well, that's because they don't make it anymore. Which we'll get into that. That comes up in my list too. This year we're in that transitional era for parts. We'll get to that. My motherboard is the Asus Pro WRX90E Sage SE. It is a Threadripper motherboard. It is.
Oh, I hope so.
A monstrosity. It doesn't even fit in the standard ATX slot. It needs an XATX, EATX, which is not an official standard, by the way. If somebody ever says they have an EATX motherboard, that's not really official.
It just means it's bigger than ATX, and check what case you're putting it in, because it still might not fit.
This monster has quad channel DDR5. It has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 PCIe 5.0 X16 slots. All of them are PCIe 5.0 full X16. All of them can run full-sized, full bandwidth. This thing is so freaking future-proofed that video cards that don't exist yet.
I'm going to say, except for the fact I don't think you could physically put video cards in each of those slots.
Oh
yeah, you could get extender cables and risers and things and do things, yeah.
Well, or I had used my solution. Also, this is so crazy. It has a cooling fan just for the chipset. That's how hard this thing anticipates being worked. Only has 4 M.2 slots, I will point out. Only one of which is 5.0. But this thing is not made for the speed for the gaming. The Godlike is a gaming motherboard. That's the idea behind it. It is a flashy gaming style motherboard. But this is just this is a beast. No RGB, none to be found anywhere. Not one RGB. If you want to know how, I believe that's a VGA port on this thing. It has a VGA port. I'm not sure why, but it has a VGA port.
Okay.
I don't know why.
Yeah, no, that's VGA. How? Why? Okay.
I don't know why. I don't understand. But
maybe they expect you not to use video cards in those slots, and they're used for other things, and so you just have to hook up an old style monitor.
For RAM, you went with 2 kits of 96 gig DDR5 6800 CL34, which for a total of 200 and let's see, 980 and
it's 192
gigs of RAM. Just RAM.
It would actually fit 256 supposedly, but I couldn't get PC Parts Picker to admit to accepting that, so I just went with 192.
Now this is it's DDR5 6800, which is about Ryzen is still having some issues with the super fast DDR5, but at this point the performance gains from that are kind of negligible. They should get better as time goes on, but we're at a point right now you don't really kind of need it, but it's nice to have. I want to point out, this is kind of an accomplishment in and of itself. I went with 8 sticks, an 8x64 gigabyte kit for 512 gigabytes of DDR5 6000. And why this is a bit of an accomplishment is just a couple years ago, you couldn't get 4 sticks working at DDR5 6000 on Ryzen. No. You had to go slower. Now this is ECC memory. This is error correcting memory. This is server grade memory.
Well, it's server grade board.
at DDR5 6000. Error correcting at DDR5 6000. That's crazy. This has as much RAM as some systems have entire storage. That is it is it's beautiful. There's no heat sinks on these either. They're just sticks of RAM. They are there to do their fucking job. But it's kind of impressive they don't need heat sinks. DDR5 6000, no heat sinks required. That's kind of cool to me. DDR5 is coming along. Let's get to storage. We went two different ways on this one. You went speed, I went quantity. You got 4, or was it 8? It was 4, 8, 7. You got 7 of these 4 terabyte Sabrent Rocket Pro PCIe 5.0 NVMe drives.
Yep. Now, admittedly, a couple of those are in PCIe 4 slots, which
True.
I should have taken down and, saved a few dollars here or there. But this way, everything's interchangeable.
Well, honestly, the only what you could have done was you could have kept the price high. You could have just gotten bigger PCIe 4.0 drives, because right now this is the biggest 5.0 they can do. Yep. That is the 5.0 is a limitation for how fast the storage device is. So 4 terabytes is as big as they get. I went with 4 8 terabyte, but mine are PCIe 4.0. I just went for sheer size, but I think it comes out to about the same amount of capacity for both of us.
Well, yeah, because I also dropped in a handful of SATA drives.
Well, okay, yeah. You had 4 SATA slots on that board, and you chose to use this is the last 8 terabyte Samsung 870 QVO solid state drive. This is the last major huge SSD you can get for SATA. Everything is moving to M.2.
There was a 16 terabyte on PC Parts Picker, but it wouldn't give me a cost. I couldn't find it anywhere online. So I said, I'm not going to go with it because I don't know how much it is.
These SATA SSDs are legacy parts at this point. There's simply no point in wasting flash RAM on a SATA interface. The ones of these that exist, they're probably the last they're ever going to exist. These are going to sell out eventually. But they are a nice stopgap if you need storage. However, I went the other way. I had 4 SATA 3.0 slots on my board, they are becoming a rarity as well too. I went Kachungus. I chose 4 Seagate Iron Wolf Pro 24 terabyte 7200 drives. I figured that my 32 terabytes. Oh, not, yeah, 32. Yeah. I figured my 32 terabytes of SSD storage would be fine for operating system programs and even scratch disks for video editing. But 4 of these bastards in RAID
can hold your long-term storage
with redundancy, with fucking redundancy. That's the big deal. Because we're talking raw data. That's like almost 100 terabytes of raw data storage. But if you put them in RAID, if one of these drives goofs up, you're still good. You still have vast tracts of storage. Just huge fucking drives. Video card, Mike. I am disappointed. Why?
Okay. I picked a really, I thought, decent video card with the idea behind this build, because this one is built for PCIe 5. This guy whoever's buying this one is going, I'm honestly waiting for a PCIe 5 video card, but they're not out yet. So I'm going to get something that'll hold me over until they're out, and then I'm going to buy that.
All right. I will point out that as an effort to compete with NVIDIA, the 7900 XTX was not terrible. The worst thing about it was its price. The 7900 XTX never quite reached the same level as the 4090. It was a viable contender to trade blows with the 4080, but they wanted to make this, they wanted that sweet 4090 money, and that was not going to happen. So they have constantly scaled back the price on the 7900 and the 7900 XTX. This is down to what price now? Under $1,000, which should have been, that should have been where this started at. It is not where it started at. That kind of kneecapped the effort put into this card to begin with. 24 gigabytes of RAM was nothing to sneeze at. It was never going to be as fast as the 4090, but it was a contender nonetheless. It was an impressive effort. They just wouldn't price it where it needed to be priced, which has been NVIDIA's Achilles heel for years now. Their market, ever since first generation Radeon, the RX 5000 series, and early Ryzen, their marketing department has lost their damn minds with the pricing, because they
100%. I think we've talked about that on multiple shows where they've let the wrong people set the price points.
Now, I chose not one, but two RTX 4090s, Asus, Republic Gaming, Strix Gaming, O'Clock. And the only reason I chose this one, it had the highest out-of-the-box clock on the GPU. 24 gigabyte RTX 4090. I chose two of these. And the only reason, and while that my motherboard can support up to 7 of them, I'll get into why I only chose two later, but it is a practical concern. Still, this is the fastest beast on, nothing competes, nothing compares, nothing competes. And it's about to be made it's going to be made a second class card fairly soon, because we're looking at the 5090 and the 5080, which supposedly the 5080 is going to be even faster than this, but use less power, which is going to make this a harder sell. That's the problem with this as a Halo product. And it's been a problem that NVIDIA has kind of had for years now with their Halo NVIDIA. They don't age well. Like the 1080 Ti, that aged pretty well. The 2080, but the Titan class cards and the 3090 and the 4090, they don't age as well because NVIDIA pulls out all the stops and dumps all of the power on these. And in terms of efficiency, these are completely inefficient. So these don't stay viable long term.
I also know you're paying a few extra dollars here for the Republic of Gamer stamp.
Well, not just
for the Republic of Gamer stamp.
Well, you're also right now paying over twice retail suggested price at the moment. These cards are currently going for $3,300 for one reason only.
It says $3,600 on your price list.
36. All right, so these are twice retail, and there's one reason for that. It's because they're no longer in production. NVIDIA has stopped making the 4090 unofficially. You're not going to get, even the 4080 is good. The 4080 right now, is somewhere in the neighborhood of $1,600. The 4080 Super, which is supposed to be cheaper, is over $1,200. They're next to impossible to grab. But if you want uncompromising performance, you can't. Now, some of you are going, why are you getting two of them? SLI is dead. SLI was NVIDIA's technology for wiring multiple GPUs together. They no longer support it. SLI, yes, SLI is dead. But for video processing, for computation, for cryptography, not just cryptocurrency, but the whole science around it.
Actually cryptographic work.
Right, actual cryptographics. Graphics cards are unparalleled. GPUs, the way they're designed, the way they do calculations. And in theory, putting two of them, there is software that will recognize multiple of these as separate processors for doing that sort of work. Blender, which is a popular 3D rendering and editing software, loves a bunch of these fuckers. Just loves it. You can do some amazing stuff in Blender with a bunch of these tied together. But I limited myself to two, and we'll get to why in a second.
Because you could buy a new car for what you paid for this computer?
That's the point! No limit! No limit! No limit means no limit. That's why I asked if you were trolling me. All right, for case, you did go with a big monkey, a big chungus. We've talked about this one before.
For my third year running, the Cooler Master HAF 700 EVO ATX full tower case, one of which, by the way, is sitting out in that hallway.
Did you seriously got one?
Yep.
How much did it run you?
About the list price there.
What the hell, Mike?
I had a bonus at work. I said, I don't know what.
Treat yourself. This is a case that will last you and last you and last you.
Yeah,
Holy Moses.
Barring an earthquake breaking the case.
Right.
I suspect this is my last computer case.
Look at the top of it can hold two different 360 millimeter radios. Two in the top. Side by side. It's going, Jesus Christ.
Well, no, it's not. I'm not going to hold two radiators. I'm going to have one radiator with its fans and then a second set of fans. But yeah.
Fair enough. It is a monstrous case. It has an LED screen on the front. It's just a beast. It is a despicable beast. Two 120 millimeter exhaust fans. My God. Doesn't it have 200 millimeter fans in the front?
It's got big fans in the front. I couldn't tell you the spec on them right this second without looking it up.
I don't know if I believe it has two 200 millimeter front case fans. It is a monstrous case. I chose my same one again that I keep choosing. However, I chose the.
Hold on. Huh. Last year, you chose the desk case.
Oh yes, that's right. I did choose this case. That's right. I chose this one for practical reasons. The desk case was crazy though, but I love this case. This is the Thermaltake Tower 900. It has been around for a while, but it is just amazing. It is a what they call an aquarium case. It can handle two. I forgot to put the second reservoir and pump in there. My bad. It can handle two independent custom cooling loops with two different pumps so that you can cool your CPU and GPU independently, which you're kind of going to want. Looks like a 3D printer. A little bit. It can hold, we'll get to how many radiators. Look, it can hold two 560 millimeter radiators on either side. Tons and tons of hard drives, fans, the works. And it is just a pretty machine. It is a pretty monstrosity. Just look at that. I love that thing. Now we get to power supplies. You chose the last residential compatible power supply we're ever going to see. The Be Quiet Dark Power Pro 13 1600 watt.
So I wanted a little bit of headroom.
Titanium certified. So the efficiency on this thing is crazy. Fully modular. Dark Rock, it is PCIe 3.0 compliant natively, which oddly enough, you're not going to need to use because AMD does not use the 12 plus 4. Yeah.
No,
they use the old one. They might not ever. I don't think they're ever going to use it, Mike.
I'm going to say not yet because we can't predict the future to that degree.
Well, I can predict, at least for the next year, I do not think that the RX 8000 or 9000 or whatever series they call it is, they won't use it because they're not going to have an 8900 XTX. They're not going to have a Halo product. They're just going to have an 8800. So the power levels are not going to require that amount. They're not going there. So they can still be just fine with 2 or 3 PCIe 8-pin connectors, the classics. So I don't think AMD's going to go there because, again, that connector is bad. And I say this as someone who has a video card with that connector. Connector.
I'll be honest with you. That's the other reason I didn't pick an NVIDIA card is I really don't like that connector.
I don't either. I mean, if I didn't want the encoder and all the other the NVIDIA features on there, I might have. It's streaming and rendering kind of made up my mind on whether for my real build for an NVIDIA card over AMD. I wish AMD would get their encoder shit together. I wish, because right now it's just like. I, however, went, and this is why Mike was saying I'd have to rewire my house for this. I went with a Seasonic Prime PX ATX3 2200 watt power supply. This beast, you have to special order it right now. It is a $600 power supply. And it will not run on a standard 15 amp residential breaker. If you want to add this, you have to add a high power breaker. Jay's 2 cents has run.
Or you could do without a stove and use the stove breaker.
You can use a stove breaker, yeah. Well, who needs a stove these days? Got a microwave, you're fine. Microwave and hot plate. That's all you need.
No, Nash, you're leaving out the toaster oven. This is toaster oven erasure, and I will not stand for that.
This is a monstrous power supply. But this is also why my case has my system has a limitation. I'm only using 2 4090s. In theory, I could use 7 4090s, but I would also require 3. I think I can get by with 3 of these. I would require 3 of these because 1 to power the system with the 2 4090s. And maybe I can get by with a couple of 1600 watts. But that would still draw an incredible amount of power. I would still need 2 extra power supplies just for the other 5 4090s. Because they could not draw the power.
You need 3 more because you wouldn't have the PCIe plugs. And there's only 2 per.
There are adapters. You can adapt those. But still, regardless, you could not put that many cards in the system. You would have to have extra power supplies. The power draw would be enormous. And would be ridiculous, and you would literally need an industrial breaker. You would have to rewire your entire. So even just putting in like a 20 amp,
you would need industrial cooling as well.
Yeah, and I was pushing it with the cooling on mine anyway, which we're about to get to. Case fans, you went with Lee & Lee's SL Infinity. 2 3-packs of these, they are nice looking fans.
3 3-packs.
And they work. What? 3 3-packs? Okay. So that's 9 of these. They're nice looking fans. They are modular. They click together, which a lot easier for cable management and stuff. They're just pretty. They've got infinity mirrors on the side, which is also kind of cool. Just for looks alone, it's a nice fan. And functionally, it is a good fan. I went with, let me see how many of these. I got 12 Noctua NF A14 X25 140 millimeter fans. 8
plus your custom cooling loops.
Well, yeah, we get to the cooling next. So these are case and radiator fans for these. For cooling, you went with a rather conservative, even though it is a pricey fucker, $300. You went with a rather conservative Corsair IQ H150i Elite Capellix liquid cooler, 360 millimeter radiator. These are fancy and nice. I will give it to you. I also point out that while we are doing a no limits build where we are wasting a ton of money, this is also in the real world a complete waste, because there are so many competitors in this space right now that are making 360 millimeter liquid coolers under $100. Some of them case around $50, that they are so competitive. Corsair kind of looks like they're out of their damn mind with their prices right now. And not only that, you couple their proprietary ecosystem that they're requiring for their cooling. It's like, you must be out your damn mind. Have you lost it? Because I'll help you find it. And I say this as someone who's been using Corsair stuff for a long time. My current water cooling loop has a lot of Corsair fans and controllers and stuff in there. But the iLink and going forward, that stuff, I'm out. I'm never building one, because my cooling. Well,
now I'm going to say something here.
Yeah.
Throughout the entire year, we always say custom water cooling is a pain in the ass. You should never do it. It's more hassle than it's worth.
Yeah.
And then we get to the unlimited build, and Nash goes with
custom water cooling. Because for this kind of build, for this kind of power, this is the only use case where it becomes practical. Because the amount of, we are going to make full use of that 2200 watt power supply. This thing's going to be throwing off heat like you wouldn't believe. I picked 2 AlphaCool NexOS UT60, which means they are Chunga 60 millimeter thick, 560 millimeter full copper radiators, 2 on either side of that case. They take 4 140 millimeter fans each, or technically you could put 8 on each, in and out, but I didn't do that because, well, diminishing returns. I mean, I could have done that for more, just to chunk up the prices. I got an Optimus Signature V3 CPU block for Threadripper. I like Optimus's water cooling blocks. They are incredibly, the price on this, just for a water block, there's no pump included, there's no radiator, just the water block is $340 all by itself. And that's due to the custom machining that's required and the low number of these they actually sell. There's no RGB on this fucker. It is just a block to cool the fuck, and it does it super efficiently. In addition, I got 2 of Optimus's Signature 4090 water coolers for the video cards as well. So the 4090s are going to have their own water cooling loop, and the Threadripper is going to have its own water cooling loop. And they're both going to have a 580 millimeter with, and I even think that 580 millimeter might be a little underpowered for 2 4090s. I might have to, because that might be a little underpowered there. This is a way to get more cards into slots, by the way. If I needed more room on that motherboard, an easy way to do it is with water cooling. You take off the big ass fans, you put these on there, and the cards fit into one slot. which is remarkable these days. However, there's a question of powering the fuckers, which is, that's a bit of an issue.
And just for weight of things, you might want to put these in a horizontal configuration. Or
yeah, you don't want these like leaning on the Tower 900 puts things straight up and down, which means they aren't sagging. They'll be like this in the case instead of like this, which is better. This is ideal. This is the optimal position for those big old video cards, but this is not as bad. Two of these Aqua Computer Utilitube D5 pump reservoir combo with leak shield. These are $420 each, $425 each. They are a pump. They are a tube that holds liquid. And the gimmick about these is they pull a vacuum and can sense when there is a leak in your water cooling line. So if there is a leak, an alarm will go off, and it has the ability to continue pumping with a leak without leaking because of the air pressure inside the tube can hold the water. It's science. Liquids are crazy and science is crazy. However, it's also incredibly fucking ridiculously priced for what you're getting. Because, my God. So, yeah, and our grand total. Oh, no, you added another thing. I don't know why you do this. You could just get bigger stuff. You added, just to throw up a little bit more money, run up the price a little by $1,000. You added an Odyssey G9, 5120 by 1440p OLED curved gaming monitor. Now, I will say, of all the things you got, this is probably the most impractical. Not because of the size. Not because of the size. Because of the OLED. While OLED looks fantastic in gaming, and it looks great for video, it's also completely screwed up because OLED has burn-in. I don't know why we are still using a technology in 2024, 2025 that has the potential for burn-in on your screen. The last one we used before this was plasma. These are fine for televisions because a television is rarely, if ever, going to have a static image on it for a long period of time. But for desktop use, for mixed use, if you're doing anything other than gaming, you run the risk of burn-in. Now, there are mitigation technologies they build into these to help keep that low, but even the possibility is ridiculous to me. I prefer mini LED right now, while the depth of the black presentation isn't as good on mini LED. It's much cheaper, and they will never burn in.
Yeah,
so
true.
Much longer lived. Still, if you're going to go for extravagance, oh boy, this is a big boy. That is like having two super wide screen. If you're going to do like flight sim or driving sim, that thing is amazing. So grand total, I'll even allow you to have it. I'll even allow, even though technically it's not your grand total, $13,000, $13,060.73. And you even got $45 off with promo codes. So you saved, you got some savings back there. No
promo codes on yours, huh?
Yeah, my total. $30,905.08. Over double what you had.
Yeah, I mean, if you'd gone a little bit further, we could have built 3 of mine for 1 of yours. And for video editing, you'd probably still wipe the floor with it, but I'd be able to do 3 things at once. So have 2 other people work.
And while you said no one would build the system, literally, you could actually build my system. It would function. It would cool itself. It would not destroy itself. It would fit in one case. The only modification you would need is a larger circuit breaker, which is Not that hard of a modification to make. I could install a new circuit breaker myself. Just have to wire it.
But you might also have to run new wiring. That's much more of a pain in the ass.
Depending, yeah, you might have to run new wiring. But if you're doing this for professional purposes, like if you're making a movie, this is not that crazy. This is not that crazy price, and just the parts alone. This is not that crazy of a build. If you're doing this to make like a fucking professional feature film, if you are editing for fucking Marvel and for fucking, Amazon and Netflix and shit, this $30,000, this compared to some of the prices of the editing rigs of the past, this is a fucking bargain for what you're getting. Like, you could have made, on the system I've assembled, you could just make Toy Story on the one computer. The whole fucking thing on this one computer.
But you wouldn't want to because you've got an entire team that needs to work on it.
True, but you could. And sometimes if you just want to, one of the things that's taken into account with making films is rendering time. Every extra minute.
This would probably knock the rendering time down dramatically. I acknowledge that.
Every extra minute is money and time lost. So the faster you can render output, this thing could easily do 8K. This thing could do 16K. Or it's not going to be this thing could do an incredible resolution. This thing could do fucking IMAX in reasonable time frames. Raw red. This thing could do raw red, which is a weird way of. Red is a type of camera, a very high resolution camera, and raw is the footage format that is uncompressed. So when we say raw red, we're not talking about like a horror film here. We're talking about video stuff. So yeah, that's what I'd recommend for if you had all of the money. Now, the 4090, again, completely, it's not going to age well as a CPU, I've got to say, a GPU. That is one of those Halo products. It's like, for right now, it is the fastest. It gets the award for being fastest. But let's say next year, when the 5080 comes out for $1,600, which is about the same price as the 4090, you watch, I'm calling, the 5080 is going to be $1,600 fucking dollars. When that comes out for the same price as the 4090, allegedly, using a third less power, that makes the 4090, in retrospect going forward, kind of a bad unit. I mean, you could get it if you wanted, really, but they don't age well at the Halo point. They use so much power to get that fastest award. They don't age well. So, yeah, I mean, I kind of feel better about my 4080 because it's not as fast as the 4090, but I did get it used, for one thing. And for another, it doesn't use the kind of power that the 4090 does. So it's not as fast, but going forward in like, another 3-4 years when it's about as fast as, say, I don't know, a 7060 or something, if we get there, I'll still feel pretty good about that in comparison. And I'll still be using it. Maybe I'll look at an upgrade. Maybe I'll still be doing this by then after all these fucking years, but yeah, we'll see what happens. Again, our list would have looked very different. A lot of the price increases on our list are because we are in between product releases right now. Like Mike talked about, the 6070 the board was more expensive than the 8070. That's because they stopped making it. The 4090s are up to $3,700 because they've stopped making it. So, it's going to look a little different in a few months. We'll see what it looks like next year. But yeah, I think I want to sneak in another tier just because I would like to have something attainable at the high end even if it's not something we could recommend people, something like about $3,000 or so, a reasonable high-end build, not the $30,000 workstation. Anyway, all right. We have got questions. Let's get to those. If you have those, you can send those in. Let's see what we have tonight. I sent another one to you. It came in late.
Yeah, so. I just saw.
All right. First one. This one's a relatively easy one. This is from Dana. She says, "Hey, Nash and Mike, don't have a lot of money this year, but I want to get my SO a computer-related gift because he loves his gaming PC. Any good recommendations for accessories under $100? I have a recommendation. This or something like this. I think this is like $10. You might want to consider a stocking stuffer. This is a keyboard cleaning brush. I'll see if I can get the actual one up on screen that I got. Show you. Let's see. No, it's cat brush. Now here it is. $12. Yeah, and I've had this for a while now. The reason I recommend this, let me bring it up on screen so I can show you, is it is kind of an all-in-one keyboard care kit for $13. The brush is so useful because, especially because we have cats, trying to clean between these keys is nuts. Even with you can get the air blower, but still, just on a general basis, this comes in super handy for that. Plus, we have conversion stuff here. Not only that, the handle comes out and it has a detailing pick. If something gets like stuck in there, there's your detailing pick on this side. And on the other side, it has a little in-between brushy that you can get down in there in the grits and bits. And just for funsies, it's got a key puller. So if you want to pull your keycaps off to clean underneath there, you can do that too. So this is a nice little, for $13, it is a nice little accessory that people could actually use and make use of. I use this thing constantly because, well, cats.
Yeah. Another is like I said, that's a stocking stuffer. I wouldn't make that necessarily the main gift.
Right. But it is a nice thing.
They might ask questions like, "That's my main gift."
No.
I would possibly see if they need a new set of headphones.
Headphones are a great one.
Headphones are a great one. You can get. There's a number of decent brands that you can get under $100, wired or wireless. And yeah, that's often a very good gift.
Another one, you always need storage, especially if you're on a gaming PC, you always need storage. So, or backup for that matter. External hard drive, especially if you get one that's an SSD, is a nice thing to have because not only is that good for backup, if you get a fast enough one, it is viable to game with. You can get used for game storage as well. Not great, but it will work pretty well. In the same note, it's always nice to have some extra USB sticks around with, and the prices on those have gone through the floor. Just make sure whichever ones you get are at least USB 3.0. There really is no point to buying USB 2.0 sticks anymore for storage because
the only reason I think of having a USB 2 stick around anymore is if I needed to flash BIOS and I just need a random one that I was going to put, a BIOS update on.
Or compatibility, I guess, if you have something that won't work quite right. I've seen things that won't work quite right with the USB 3.0. Raritor says, I got a 256 gig USB for less than $20. Holy God. How is this the reality right now? It's crazy. I personally, for accessory wise, I like my Stream Deck, and not just for streaming. It's nice to have a programmable hotkeys. Sarah got hers for streaming, but she uses hers for other stuff too. I use mine for Adobe for when I'm editing video. It's got a lot of nice pre-customizable stuff there. Dashboard Cookies, thank you for the follow. Appreciate that. It's got a lot of the words. Yeah, it's got a lot of macros. That's the word. For a lot of different programs, not just, OBS and stuff, which I use a lot for OBS. Yeah, I think that's pretty much covered. But this, as a cheap gift, this is a nice one. For the money, I get so much use out of this. Just, it's not like the only thing you should give someone, but I'm grateful I have it because I use it literally every day. It's nice to have. So that's what I can recommend. Okay, this one is terrifying. This is from Sam. He says, "Hi, Nash and Mike. Our cat knocked over a drink that I'd left sitting on our entertainment center, and long story short, it got into everything. We're pretty sure the Xbox One got soaked, one of the controllers, and the power strip too. Nothing was turned on at the time. Lucky motherfucker. Are we completely screwed, or is there any way to save the unit? If not, it's not the end of the world. We've had that Xbox since it was brand new, and it won't be hard to replace, but I'd rather not if we don't have to. Thank you for the show, Sam G."
Okay, so first things first, I'm going to say, don't even try with the power strip. Just put that in the bin, get a new power strip.
In theory, you can clean those, but for one thing, the price and the time you would have to spend cleaning it. For another, you can never be 100% sure. Those are devices that are there to ensure safety of your components. And if there's ever any anything questionable about the integrity of the unit, you should never use it. Power strips are there to keep things from blowing up. And if there's if there's any reason to look at it sideways, no, get rid of it forever. Goodbye.
Yeah. So the one thing you don't say here is what kind of drink. Now, the reason I bring this up is because if it's water, it's probably easier to clean up and salvage the Xbox than if it was a soda or coffee or wine.
Yeah.
And that's because water, unless it happened to be ultra purified water that you had sitting there, while it will have bits and things in there, probably is not leaving trails that you're not seeing.
Not as much.
Connecting components, not as much.
Yeah. And even just the sticky stuff, even if it's not bridging connections, it's all right. I'm gonna little side story. Long time ago, Fender Guitar made amplifiers in the 60s, and they did it with this really nice, neat process that's still viable today, that you can still repair these. But they were cheap, which is the nice deal. They had these fiberboard circuit boards that had little metal eyelets in them, and you soldered components to the eyelets. And they're fiberboard, so they're effectively, cardboard, but like hard. But they were cheap to make. You could easily put components in them. They're still in service today. Lots of them. I've got a 1960 reverb unit over there that's got a fiberboard circuit board in it. They still work just fine. Then CBS bought Fender. And one of the problems with fiberboard is moisture. It picks up moisture over time. So to solve this problem, CBS decided, let's just dip the fiberboards in wax. Now, the problem with this, over time, inside of a tube amplifier where things heat up, wax melts, then you turn it off and it resolidifies.
Yep.
And it picks up dust, dirt, contaminants from the environment. And when that wax resolidifies with the dust and dirt and contaminants in it, that leaves a trail that can bridge connections. Even today, there are technicians that if they have to repair like a late 60s, early or 70s Fender amplifiers, they have to completely disassemble it, take all the components off that fiber board, put it in an oven, melt all the wax off of it, clean it with alcohol. So why I'm bringing this up, the sticky stuff, while it might not bridge connections now, it's going to pick up dust and dirt and bugs and other things. And those will in time eventually. So, are you screwed? Well, the controller might be easier to deal with. There are break teardown instructionals for those controllers. What I would do is I would completely disassemble that, soak all the parts in isopropyl alcohol, 90% or higher, and let them dry out for at least 3 to 4 days, and then reassemble. That should be fine. You could, in theory, do that with the Xbox One, but there's a problem. The Xbox One, the heatsink for the CPU, GPU, and for the VRAM and other components, you can't just soak the whole thing in alcohol and pray. That you have to take the heatsink off. You're going to have to remove the thermal paste. You're going to put on new thermal paste. You're going to have to take off the thermal pads. Try not to tear them. Set those aside. Then disassemble everything. Then clean those. My point is, you're looking at several days worth of work to clean and repair this. Now, if this was something like an NES or an Atari 2600 or something, I could see that being worth all the effort because it is a vintage device. You can't make them anymore. The Xbox One, you can get those used for less than the labor cost that you would have to go through to solve this problem. About the only thing I would with the Xbox One I would bother with is I would get your hard drive out of there.
Yeah, because that can be swapped over to a new device.
Yeah,
trivially.
That can be cleaned up fairly easily. With and
the reason for that, the hard drive is an enclosed thing. So at most you're probably cleaning off something, just surface stuff. Because if whatever you were drinking somehow penetrated the hard drive, I need you to stop drinking that.
Yeah, because you should be dead. So the hard drive would be viable to move to a new system, or at least just save all the stuff that was on there. But the rest of it, it's just isn't worth it. The time you're going to take to do this, unless you are super strapped for money and you cannot afford to replace it. I mean, you say, it wouldn't be hard to replace. How much is a used Xbox One right now? If you really want to go with an Xbox One,
you can buy it used 200. I see somewhere here.
I see a refurbished GameStop, $140.
Okay, so I was looking at Amazon and I didn't do an in-depth search.
Xbox One S, if you don't care about the getting a new optical, I see that for as cheap as $60. So,
and you can probably swap over the optical drive.
Not an Xbox One. There's no room for it in the S.
Oh, is there an external connection where you could make your own enclosure?
No.
Okay.
I've got an Xbox One S out there just for the sake of having the Xbox One. We don't use it for anything else because we have a PS4 if we want to do Blu-ray. So there was no point. So, we hardly ever use that thing anyway. So, I mean, if you want to take this as an opportunity, maybe look at getting an Xbox Series X, or maybe, I don't know, a PS5. I'm told they don't have any games, by which everyone says which people mean they don't have exclusive games, which seems silly to me because if you're getting a console, you're getting it for a cheap gaming system. Who the fuck cares about exclusives? You just want a cheap system to play your video games. But people are all up in, I want a system with exclusives on it. Why? What's wrong with you? Wouldn't you want it to? Oh, fuck you. Fuck you. Anyway, regardless, you might want to use this as an opportunity to upgrade, or replacing it is a lot easier because this is not a vintage console. This is not the only thing I'd say that maybe the only reason I'd say disassemble the controller is the controller is relatively simple to clean and repair compared to.
And if you screw it up, you're out, what, $30, $40?
Yeah. So, yeah. All right. Last question that came in. This is from Otaku Boy T. And we got some pictures here, and I'm going to put those up on the screen in a second. Oh, yes. The other thing I wanted to mention briefly. This is the week that I officially quit using Chrome for good, forever. Because Manifest V3 has gone through. If you're not familiar with this, Manifest V3 is the new way of it's an underlying function of Chrome going forward, and it's also how extensions interact with the browser. They are now being very restricted from having access to some of the API and some of the underlying functions, which means, coincidentally, strangely enough, ad blockers no longer work as effectively. There's a new version of uBlock Origin called uBlock Origin Lite, which is no longer as functional. And Google being in charge of ad block of blocking the ad blockers is sort of a fox in the henhouse kind of thing. So I have gone over to Firefox, which is feature complete replacement for Chrome, and it is not based on Chromium like Edge is. So it will allow you. There are also some other browsers that are based on Chromium, but also in addition have a built-in ad blocker. Firefox allows me. It's. I've got everything I could before. It's still pretty functional, and I don't have to deal with Google's bullshit. Because fuck Google at this point. You've disappointed me. Anyway, let me show you what Otaku Boy T has a problem with here, and it kind of sucks, but it's not quite so bad. Okay, that one's pretty bad. That is actually, oof. That one's actually, yeah, kind of nasty. Let me bring that up over here. All right. Okay, bring it here. Let me see. We're getting the mid-cycle refresh of my primary system, 2600 to 5700 X3D, extra bolt storage, Type-C ports, PSU shroud. Good deal. I attempted to reattach the USB 3 header, and it looks like one of the pins is bent badly. I've unbent CPU pins and other pins before. However, this looks a bit trickier. So now before the show, I figured I'd send it in, hopeful for any advice. MSI B450 Gaming Plus Max motherboard. Okay, this is.
I'm really curious how you managed to bend just that one.
You bent your Wookiee, bro. Let's bring this up over here. Yeah, look at that. Look at that sucker. If you could see this is a USB 3.0 header on the motherboard, and you can see right there. That one is just wonk over. Another picture of it there. That's like not quite 90 degree. I'd say it's like a 75 degree angle. That's nasty. How the hell? Okay. Ways to bend this back. Recommend using a very, 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 very fine tipped flat head screwdriver. How? What happens is if the pin is slightly out of alignment and you push down the connector, all the other pins will fit except that one. It will get smushed, which is apparently what happened here. Another good tool for this is a sewing needle. Sewing needles are good for bending these back into place gently. You have to be concerned when you bend them past a certain point, the stress on the metal and the fatigue, how badly it's been damaged. you might, since this is the only time it's been bent, you might get lucky and be able to bend it back with no issues. I like a little thin, flat, like an eyeglasses, flathead screwdriver, like very tiny.
Very, very tiny pair of needle nose pliers.
Yeah, if you have a super small one, that will help too. Now, here's the good news about this. Even if it's broken, here's the good thing. The way USB works on these headers is one row of pins is for one USB port, and the other row of pins is for another USB port. So if this is in fact broken and you can't bend it back, you're only going to be losing half of the functionality of that port. You will still be able to get one USB 3.0 port to work just fine. It's the other one will be dead because it will be missing one of the connectors. But you might have a good chance of getting that bent back. It's just that's a nasty, bro. That's a nasty. But again, you'll only lose one port, one half of these each handle 2 ports each. You'll lose one of them. It won't no longer function, but the other one will function just fine because each row is dedicated toward add during your question. Okay, we'll have to say it again. Taco Boy, ways to bend it back. Sewing needle, tiny needle nose pliers if you have it available, flathead eyeglasses screwdriver. Like, for example, do I have mine here? I do. Super tiny flathead from my eyeglasses kit. Comes in handy for this sort of stuff because but as I was saying, the good news here is if this is in fact broken, if that pin is busted and you can't put it back, you're only losing one USB port because, oh yeah, Godslayer, razor from a razor blade. Yes, that's another viable option there too. That's not a bad idea. You're only going to lose one of the 2 USB ports connected to this header because each row of these pins handles one USB port. So that one will work just fine. The other one won't work anymore, but that's it. So
actually, let me look at something here real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's the 5th pin. 2, 3. Okay. I just want to make sure. I'll see what the pin is.
Yeah, it's a transmission pin.
Okay, it is. Okay.
Yeah, it's a. I think it's the positive transmission pin. Because there's a positive and a negative transmission pin. I don't understand that deep into USB. I just understand how making it work, not how it work. I am a caveman banging rocks together. Okay. But yeah, otherwise, if it's broke, it's broke. This is one that's not worth worrying about. You could, in theory, if you'd like, grab yourself a hot air gun and desolder that connector and solder on a new one. And I'd rather stab myself in the nuts with a fork than try that. That is a whole lot of trouble. I do not want to mess with that. So worst case scenario here, you're just going to have to deal with one of your USB ports won't work. The other one still will. You still will have a USB 3.0 port that will work off this header. So that's the good news. All righty. I think that's going to do it for us for this week, unless something else came in. Something else came in. Yay. Oh boy. Let's see. All right. Well, this might not be that bad. This is from Emilio. Hey there, Nash and Mike and the Massive Cats. I recently acquired some extra cash, and after following your advice and getting myself a Lenovo Legion laptop, I've decided I should get an alternative motherboard for my main system. While in theory I could upgrade to AM4 to AM5, I'd like to get an AM4 to replace my Asus Prime X570P, which, while very solid so far, I'd rather use for backup or upgrade my home server. Okay, first of all, Emilio, I would not recommend going back to AM4. I really wouldn't. It's simply not worth it. Only available motherboards purchased around where I live are these Gigabyte X570 Aorus Elite and X570 Aorus Elite Wi-Fi. There's some higher end ASRock ones, but the M.2 covers on them, and their prices don't work for me. Let me look at this. I mean, yeah, the Aorus X570. I've got an Aorus B550 in Sarah's machine. I like their Gigabyte stuff. I've never had a problem with the Gigabyte motherboard. I'm sure other people might have, but I've had good. What was that?
What was what?
Something just made noises. I didn't like that. The hell just happened? Oh, that was a donate. Whoa! Hold on. She's got a big donation. Emilio, thank you for the PayPal donation there. Surprise. Thank you so much. Thanks, Raritor. I appreciate it. Well, it's a big donation. I appreciate it. It helps with the year-end stuff, and that's going to help with the donation drive. I have to reset and make that larger now. But X570 right now, I would not do this. If you're going to move to a new system, a B560 is a much better option. Even if you're not going to go super high end, B560 is better. And going with either a Ryzen 7600 or like the 8400F or the 8600, that's much better because this is technically obsolete. It's a dead end platform. The RAM's done. The wireless is technically old now. It's 802.11ac. We're on Wi-Fi 6, which is slightly different. If you're going to get one, Aorus X570 is not bad. I just can't recommend it. But, well, I mean, as opposed to buying new. If this is all you're going to get, yeah, Gigabyte's a good brand to go with for this. But yeah, thank you so much for that donation. Help us keep doing the stuff we're doing. The equivalent I have on the AM5 platform would be about 1,000. What do you have right now? Because that would make a difference. Because you don't mention what you have right now. Yeah, because you don't mention RX 5700X, 32 gigabyte RAM, and the mobile. Well, I mean, I don't. Well, okay, all right. Well, you say it would be $1,000, but taking into consideration if you're not in the U.S., yeah, it might be $1,000. That is one unfortunate side effect. Trying to get a hold of certain gear not in the U.S. gets to be a problem. So, yeah, that might be way more expensive. If that's the case, yeah, not in the U.S., yeah. If that's the case, if you're going to go with the motherboard, this is a good one to go with. I'm happy with, I've never had, in all the times I use Gigabyte motherboards, I use them starting in around the 2000s. I was using Gigabyte motherboards. All the way up to this piece of shit from Asus that still gives me trouble. Sarah's machine, I
thought you mostly sorted that with the new power connector.
Mostly sorted, but it's still a pain in the ass. It is not. Asus is. Anyway,
it's no longer randomly rebooting on you, right?
No, it's no longer randomly rebooting. At least there's that. But I've never had a problem. I've put 2 gigabyte boards in Sarah's system. She's using a B550 right now with Ryzen 7 5700X. I got that used, which was nice. So she's fine with that. Hers has no trouble. I had no trouble. I even had no trouble, barely any trouble with the Threadripper board I was using before this. And that had teething issues just because it was Threadripper. So, no, I don't, Rare. I have another, I appreciate that, but I have enough to worry about right now. The motherboard, it's functional. It's not crashing anymore. I'll live with it. Considering the price on the damn things, I'll live with it. But thank you so much. In any event, Gigabyte, yes, this is a good board. Go with this. All right. That is going to do it for us tonight.
Ran long, but...
What?
Ran long.
It ran long, but hey, worth. Very worth. We'll be back next week, next Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern. If you have tech questions for Mike and myself, you can send those to requests at radio.air.com. We will attempt to help you out. In the meanwhile, for Mike and myself, we'll see you next time. Hey, everybody.